Lila had never taken a single step in her life. Born into comfort, raised in a mansion where her father's reputation as a brilliant surgeon cast a long shadow, she lived surrounded by wealth, but trapped in a body that wouldn't move the way it should. To the world, she was fragile, delicate, and untouchable. To her father, Dr. Grant, she was both his pride and his silent shame, the living reminder that even a surgeon with all the knowledge in the world couldn't heal his own child. He had tried everything: specialists from overseas, experimental treatments, endless therapies. Each failure only hardened him more. He began to believe her condition was unchangeably an unspoken truth he buried under his arrogance and control. Her mother, Mrs. Evelyn, offered quiet comfort, but even her warmth couldn't erase the sadness that lingered in Lila's eyes. But fate doesn't always follow science, and healing doesn't always come from where we expect it. One evening, outside the hospital, a boy watched from the shadows. His clothes were torn, his face smudged with dirt, yet his eyes carried something rare: hope. Malik had nothing. No home, no wealth, no recognition, but he carried a gift no one could measure, a gift that would challenge everything Dr. Grant believed. And when he crossed paths with the surgeon's daughter, the world that seemed so certain would suddenly tilt. Because the day Lila met Malik was the day her story began to change forever. The first time Malik saw Lila, she was sitting by the hospital garden window, staring out as though the world beyond the glass was unreachable. To most people, she looked like a porcelain doll, delicate, untouchable. But Malik noticed something different. Behind her calm expression was a storm: frustration, longing, and a pain no one else seemed to see. Malik had lived a life opposite to hers. Abandoned at a young age, he drifted through the streets, relying on scraps, small kindnesses, and his own stubborn will to survive. Yet despite his hardships, he carried within him an unusual gift and instinct for understanding the body, for sensing strength where others only saw weakness. He never studied medicine, never held a textbook in his hand, but when he looked at people, he felt he could read them, almost like their muscles whispered secrets to him. One day, as fate would have it, Malik found himself inside the hospital after sneaking in to find food. He overheard the staff talking about the surgeon's daughter who could never walk. His curiosity grew, and when he finally laid eyes on her, he felt something powerful stir within him. He began to linger around, not to steal or beg, but just to watch. He saw how the doctors treated Lila with clinical detachment, how her father's pride often turned into coldness when progress failed, and how her mother's gentle reassurances barely reached her daughter's wounded spirit. It was during one of those silent observations that their eyes met. Lila looked at him not with judgment, but with recognition to souls marked by different struggles, yet both outsiders in their own way. She didn't turn away. She didn't call for help. She just looked. And in that moment, Malik felt certain he could do something no one else had done. Days passed. Malik gathered courage. One evening, when the garden was quiet and the hospital staff had thinned, he approached her. His voice was low, hesitant, but steady. "Let me try." Lila blinked in surprise. For a moment, she thought he was mocking her, like others sometimes had. But his eyes, those steady, unwavering eyes, told another story. There was no pity in them, no arrogance, just belief. Her heart raced. No doctor, no specialist, not even her own father had ever spoken with such certainty. She wanted to laugh at the absurdity. A homeless boy, claiming he could do what medicine could not. But something deep within her, a quiet hope she had buried long ago, kept her from saying no. And so, against reason, against logic, and against everything her father would have demanded, she whispered back, "Okay." Neither of them knew it yet, but with that single word, the first step toward a miracle had already begun. The air was thick with tension as Malik knelt in front of Lila. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear of failure, but from the weight of the moment. He had never done anything like this before, not with someone so fragile, someone whose entire life had been defined by what she could not do. Yet, deep inside, he knew this was the moment he was meant for. "Trust me," he whispered, placing his hands gently on her legs. His palms were rough from years of survival on the streets, but his touch was strangely steady, grounding her in a way she had never felt. At first, nothing happened. Lila stared down, fighting the familiar disappointment rising in her chest. She had been here before: empty promises, failed attempts, false hope. But then, Malik closed his eyes, as though listening to something deep inside her body. He began guiding her legs, not forcing, not pulling, but aligning them with a kind of instinct no doctor had ever shown. And then her toes twitched. Just the slightest movement, almost invisible, but it was real. Her breath caught. "Did you see that?" she gasped. Malik's eyes lit up, but he didn't celebrate. "Again," he said firmly. "We're not stopping now." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sweat formed on Malik's brow as he concentrated, speaking softly to her. "You are stronger than they told you. Your body is not broken, it's waiting. Feel it, don't give up now." And then, like a spark igniting a flame, Lila's foot lifted from the ground. Shaky, unsteady, but undeniably hers. Tears blurred her vision as she realized what was happening. For the first time in her life, her body responded to her will. Malik stepped back, his voice steady but urgent. "Stand, Lila, you can do this." Her hands clutched the armrest of the chair, every muscle trembling. Fear screamed at her to stop, to sit back down. But hope, wild, unstoppable hope, pushed her forward. And then, in a moment that defied every medical explanation, Lila rose to her feet. The world seemed to freeze. For a heartbeat, there was no hospital, no pain, no past, just her, standing. Malik's voice broke through, soft but filled with awe. "I told you, you could." For a long moment, the room was silent. No words, no movements, just the unbelievable reality that Lila was standing on her own 2 feet. Her father, Dr. Harrison, rushed forward, his face pale with shock and wet with tears. He had dedicated his entire career to medicine, surgeries, and science. Yet what had just happened in front of him felt beyond explanation. "Lila," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you're standing." She turned to him, her legs trembling but strong enough to hold her. "Dad, I'm standing." The tears she had held back for years finally poured down her face. For the first time in her life, she wasn't looking up at the world from a wheelchair. She was eye to eye, equal, free. Malik stepped back, his clothes torn, his shoes worn, but his presence larger than life. He wasn't a surgeon, not a doctor, not someone with degrees or prestige. He was a boy who had been forgotten by society, a boy people crossed the street to avoid. And yet, in this moment, he had given the Harrison family something that money and medicine never could, a miracle. Dr. Harrison gripped Malik's shoulders, his voice shaking. "I don't know how you did this, but thank you. You've given me back my daughter." Malik shook his head softly. "No, she did it herself. She just needed someone to believe she could." From that day forward, Lila's life was never the same. Step by step, she grew stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. And Malik, he was no longer just a homeless boy. The world began to see him differently because one act of faith had rewritten both their destinies. This story isn't just about walking, it's about hope, belief, and the power of seeing strength where others see weakness. Because sometimes, miracles don't come from the ones we expect, they come from the people we've overlooked. Thank you for watching this powerful story of hope, faith, and the strength hidden in unexpected places. Lila's journey reminds us that sometimes, all it takes is one person who believes in us to change everything. And Malik's act shows the world that no one should ever be judged by their circumstances. If this story touched your heart, don't just keep it to yourself, share it so others can feel the same hope. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our community where real stories spark real change. Together, we can make sure voices like Malik's are never overlooked again.